think we're live. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I should keep saying good morning, and yes, we are live. Good morning, everybody. Saturday morning. Are you excited? Are you as excited as I am? Because I'm excited to tell you this story. The first expressions you will have when I tell you this story, you're going to not believe me because it is unbelievable. But before I tell you the story, let's talk a little tiny bit about the mind. And many of you have heard me say that the power of the mind is the most extraordinary thing. And I always believe that when God put us on this earth, he didn't just throw us down and say, there you go, have at it. He gave us tools. He gave us things that we could use. And when I say he gave us things, it's all about the mind. Thoughts are living things. Thoughts are the most powerful and the most positive things we could ever imagine that they would be. You're wondering where am I going with this, aren't you? I'm going to keep going for a little bit longer because I want you to understand the power of thought. One tiny pulse of energy, one tiny little thought will go out into the universe. It will reach that person you're thinking about, or it will encompass the ideas that you have, or it will gather the kind of energy that you need to put an idea into place or a project into place. But let's say that we're sending out healing. That tiny, tiny little pulse of energy goes out there and it goes out into the universe, and it hits that person that we're sending out those thoughts to. You know how you'll suddenly get a phone call, were you thinking about me because I was thinking about you, that kind of thing. But what people don't realize is this little tiny pulse of energy, that one little thought that goes out there, as it's scooting its way through the universe, it's gathering energy. It's gathering like energy. So if it's a good thought, if it's a positive thought, if it's a thought that comes from the light, if it's a beautiful thought, it will gather that same energy. You've heard the little saying, like attracts like. So that little tiny pulse of energy is zooming through the universe, gathering like energy as it goes, and it hits that person, gives that person healing or whatever it is. Or if I think of my daughter, for instance, or my grandson, I'm saying it hits them, that love, that gorgeous loving and all the rest of it, it hits them in the face, right? I know that they're watching. So it goes out into the universe and it gathers that energy. However, what people don't realize is it has a boomerang effect, because as soon as it reaches the person you're thinking of, it then turns around, because it's your energy after all, so it's going to return to you, and it comes scootling back, gathering like energy all the time, and comes right back to you. So you not only sending out that brilliant energy, you're also, in doing so, you're going to receive it back tenfold, which is great. Now, the same applies to negative energy. So if you're thinking of people in a negative way, or you're being mean to people, zoom, 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 all that negative energy is going out there. It gathers speed, it gathers like energy, it hits that person. Yes, really, it really can affect a person. And then it comes right back at you, and you know what's going to happen. Then you're going to get all that negativity, all that stuff bouncing back on you. So okay, so thoughts are very powerful. Our energy, our mind power is very powerful. Having gone that far, I want to say good morning to my darling boy. I don't know how long he's going to be on there. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Maybe Samantha's watching as well. Kiss, kiss, kiss to you too. Sending out all that loving energy. Right, so here we go. Once upon a time, as Reese knows, as all good stories must begin, many years ago, I was in Egypt, and it's a fascinating place. I went all over the place. Actually, I was telling Reese a little bit about this story yesterday, and he surprised me. He said, did you go to Giza? I said, how do you know about Giza? And Giza is where, just outside of Cairo, and it's where the three main pyramids that most of us know about, that's where they are just outside of Giza. I said I did. Not only did I see the pyramids, I went inside the pyramids, which is another story, Michelle. We might want to tell that story too at some point. And about my first out-of-body experience. Oh, I'm gathering. No, can't tell that story. We'll save that one for another time. But anyway, all right. So on this particular occasion, we went to Cairo. We spent some time in Cairo, and then we flew down to the town of Luxor. And Luxor is it's a very ancient place. It has incredible ancient buildings, lots of ruins, a very, very spiritual place. And and Luxor is on the River Nile, and just across from where we stayed, there's the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens, and so it's an incredibly beautiful place. So we stayed, when we went down to Luxor, we stayed at the palace of the old King Farouk, which had been turned into a hotel. Absolutely amazing. The gardens were spectacular. Everything was fabulous. It was just one of those perfect vacations. So our room was sort of halfway up in this palace. We were sort of, if you looked up from the outside of the palace, you could count sort of several stories up, and there we were. We had a center room with a beautiful balcony, so we could step out onto the balcony, which overlooked the River Nile. And the River Nile has so many, it's very busy. It has so many vessels, small ones, big ones. They have the floating hotels, they have the floating restaurants, which I was also fortunate to go on at some point. I can go on and on about Egypt, can't I, forever and ever, because it was fascinating. However, they have these little boats. They're quite small. You can't get many people in them. They're usually manned by two young men, usually teenagers, and they're all over the place. And they're fairly small, and they have a central mast, which it lays down and folds up. And then when it's out there and you're sailing out, they pull the mast up, and there are a couple of sails, and you can go skimming across the River Nile, and they'll take you even over to the other side, to the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens. Anyway, these boats are typical to this region, and I'd never seen a felucca before. Yes, they call it a felucca. I'd never seen one before, so I really wanted to get into a felucca and sail on the River Nile. Who wouldn't? Now, who wouldn't? Okay. However, the first day we were in Luxor, we went down to the river, and there were just streams and streams of young people trying to sell this, that, and the other thing. And there were all these young boys trying to sell you a trip in a felucca. But somebody said to us, no, don't do it. There's no wind, if you're in a sailing boat, there's no point being in a sailing boat if there's no wind. And the weather was so still and so calm, and there wasn't even the slightest breeze. So we were there for 4 days. So every day we went down to the river, and every day we asked if they could sail, and no wind, and we kept being told by these young boys, they'd shrug their shoulders, Madame, no wind today, no wind today. So, okay, so here we are on our last day, and I've been to the Valley of the Kings a couple of times. I've been in the tombs. I've seen the obelisk in Luxor. I've been to the Sound and Light show. I've done, you name it. I've done so many things, and sort of just being in the palace, the palace of the old King Farouk. The staircase is so wide, I don't know how many people you can reach across it, but it's one of these, you feel like you're in Gone with the Wind when they sort of, waltz down in their big crinolines, and they waltz down these beautiful staircases. feel like you're in a movie when you're coming down there and you just want to float down the staircase. So we've done all of that, and there's one little thing left that I haven't done, and it's driving me crazy. Anyway, I am determined that I'm going to go in a felucca, wind or no wind. So on our last day, these boys come up, two young boys. They're probably, I don't know, 15, 16 years old or something. And I say, yeah, we're going to go. And we're going to do this. And my partner at the time is looking at me, are you crazy? We do it. Why? Because there was not a single boat, not a single sailboat out on the river, nothing. And when you think about it, it was a very awful thing for the economy of those people who made their money from getting people out onto these feluccas, because for 4 days they'd had no money, no income, nothing going on, and it was so they were feeling the pinch as well, but everybody was waiting for the wind. So okay, so here I am, and I convinced these two boys. They kept saying to me, Madame, there's no wind, and well, let's do it anyway. My partner looks at me and says, you're really crazy, but anyway. So we get into the boat, and there are all of these bigger boats, some of them floating hotels, some of them the floating restaurants, but they're all moored by the side of the river. So the first part of this trip in the felucca is my partner and myself sitting in the boat while these young men use a pole. One of them's got a pole to sort of push us along, and the other one is grabbing hold of all of the other vessels to pull us along. And all we're doing is being pulled along the River Nile. And I'm thinking, no, no, this is my own fault. I came out on the boat, there's no wind. Yes, I deserved it, but it wasn't working for me. So at some point I got quite frustrated, and I said to Grey Eagle, what can we do? So he chuckled at me and he smiled and he said, I'll tell you what. He said, let's go sit at the far end of the boat. So I went over to the far end of the boat, and so he said, right. And he taught me about the mind and mind power, and having been into the inside of the pyramids, of course I had more of yes, I will tell you that story another time, but I did have much more of an idea of mind power and how it really can work for us. But it had never occurred to me that I could use it in any other way, in any sort of, anyway. So he said to me, okay, I want you to sit quietly as if you're meditating. He said, and then I want you to use your mind power, and we are going to conjure the wind. And I totally believe him in everything, but I did raise my eyebrows, and I did think to myself, can we really do that? Anyway, I sit there, and then Grey Eagle and I, we're just working, the two of us, and I'm just sitting there and I'm meditating on this idea of creating and conjuring up the wind. And I have my hands, as always, when I'm doing this kind of work, always put my hands palms upwards in my lap, and I've got my eyes closed and just minding my own business. And at some point I heard a noise, and I look up, and there are these two young boys who had continually said to me, there's no wind. And just prior to my starting this exercise, I looked at them, and they were telling me there's no wind, we're struggling, it's been a tough time, etc. And I said, you want wind? Okay, let's see if I can give you some wind. Okay. So I go off, and I open my eyes at some point, and these two teenage boys who had been chatty, laughing, happy, they were staring at me as if I was something really weird, and their eyes were wide, and they were wondering what on earth I was doing, but they knew I was doing something. I continue, and I sit there with Grey Eagle, And I'm not going to say it happened immediately, because it didn't. Sometimes these things take time and patience. But I sat there and I sat there and I'm working on this, and I'm trying to visualize the wind really sort of coming up, and really sort of the sailboat, and I'm visualizing the sailboat coming out and the sails being lifted up, and I'm visualizing all of this stuff. And then I feel the first stirrings across my right cheek. I feel a very slight breeze, followed by another slight breeze. And I begin to smile to myself, and I work more and I visualize more. And with Gregor, we're using our mind power, using our energy to create thoughts, to create power. And all of a sudden I hear a yell, followed by dozens more yells, as this enormous gust of wind comes up, and the boys on our boat start scrabbling to get the mast up, and all of the other people on their feluccas all over the River Nile, in our part of the River Nile, you can hear them. They're all yelling, and everybody's yelling, and the sails get up, and the next thing you know, the sails are up and they're flapping in the wind, and all of the other people, they're all shouting to each other because they're so joyful, because they can make money now, and the wind has finally come up. And the next thing you know, you look, there are all of these feluccas out on the river, all out, sails flapping like crazy, and these two boys are as silent. They're out putting up the sails. It's not easy to do, it's one single mast. They put up the sails, and they're sitting there, and they're not saying a single word. Everybody else on the river they're all yelling at each other, joyful, happy, and these two young boys are looking at me. They're not saying a single word. And I just looked at them at some point, and I smiled, and I said, "You wanted the wind? We gave you the wind." They never spoke to me again. They were very cautious. They, instead of coming up to me and putting the sails up and dealing with the sails, they'd stay as far back from me as they possibly could, because I must have seemed like a very weird person, right? Is it true? Did that really happen? Was that my imagination? No, it was not. And we had the best time sailing up the River Nile. And it's all about believing in mind power, and believing that if you really do want to create something, and if it's the right thing to do, then you can use your energy. You can combine that universal energy, and you too can sail in a felucca when there's no wind, if you want to do something like that. We had a blast. So I finally got my my trip on the River Nile in a felucca. You might think that that is the end of the story, and it does sound like it's the end of the story, doesn't it? Except that there is a little sequel, funny little sequel. I go back to England, a year or two goes by. I'm talking to a friend of mine on the phone, and she's telling me about her two sons, and this friend is the aunt of a very good friend of mine, Kay. I don't know if Kay is watching at the moment, but anyway, she's telling me that her two sons have gone sailing, but she said it's so calm and it's so still. I doubt very much if they're going to do much sailing today, and it's a shame, because they don't have too much time together, and they don't have, they're both at university. They don't get together too often. She said, I would love them to have a great sailing day. So I tell her about my story of the felucca and how we created this beautiful wind and we sailed up and down. So she said, so what do I have to do then? So I said, well, what you have to do is you just have to, visualize and be creative and send out your energy. And I explained to her what she needed to do. So anyway, she got down to it, and she really apparently must have put her heart and soul into it. So she called me a few hours later. She said, I'm a bit worried. The boys aren't back yet. They should have been back ages ago. So I said, well, did you do the thing with the wind? And she said, oh yes. She said, put my heart and soul into it. Really, really gave it some, as we say in England, we gave it some welly, which means we really, sort of did it positively. And so she said, yeah, I really did. So she said, but she said, they're not back. She said, I don't know where they are. They're not back. So a couple of hours after that, she called me up. She said, I have to tell you something. I don't know how to tell you this, but she said, the boys got back and they were safe and everything was okay. Everything worked out okay. But they told me that they were having a really nice time, gentle breezes, the sails were up, they weren't going too fast. It was beautiful. They were on this huge lake and they were having just a fantastic, fabulous time. And completely out of the blue, there was this massive squall. The wind came up, the boat capsized, and they were both in the water struggling to get the boat out. They both emerged safely, but she said when they came home, they were completely drenched. She said, I'll never do that again, Rosemary. I think she gave it a bit too much effort, but she's convinced that it was her energy and she'd put so much into it. And the boys said to her, and she said to them, well, what time did this squall happen? And when they told her the time, it was around the same time that she was just giving it some and doing that energy. So mind power is amazing. It works. It's phenomenal. Be careful how you use it though, won't you? Because, we want a positive experience, not a negative experience. Okay, that's the end. As all good stories must end, the end. So I thought you'd like that story because it's about mind power and it's also about something that actually happened to me. When I say it happened to me, I have to correct myself because it actually didn't happen to me, did it? With Grey Eagle, I made it happen. He showed me how to use the power of the mind in a very positive way. So it wasn't something that happened to me, it was something that I created that happened for me and with me. I'd love to hear your comments and so on, but Michelle, what do you think? Did you like that?
I love story time. Story time is my favorite.
What do you think to that particular story?
I think mind control is very important, but I think you should be very cautious with it.
Right. Well, as you can see, because poor boys' boat capsized because their mother just put a little bit too much effort into it. So you do have to know what you're doing a little bit, but never, ever think that you don't have power in this world. Whenever you're feeling helpless, whenever you're feeling lost, whenever you feel that there's nothing you can do about a thing, please remember you have the power of your mind, a very powerful and very positive tool that you can use to make things better always. So, do we have any questions, any comments going on here?
Well, we have lots of good mornings. We have Tara, we have Wendy, Jennifer, Reese was watching.
Oh, darling.
I'm not sure if he is still, but
well,
he was.
He's got a short if I'm not getting to the good bits, if it's about him, he listens attentively, but you can't blame him. And anyway, he's only got a short attention span when it comes to listening to what he might consider boring stories. But anyway,
Mark said, "Good morning from Tulsa with love to you, Rosemary."
Oh, good morning, Tulsa. That fabulous song. What I'm trying to think what it is now. But anyway, what's it like there, Mark? Did you say?
Mm-hmm.
What's it like? What's it like? What's the weather like, Mark? Do you have any wind going on out there? Never mind. I'm not going to go there. Keep going, Michelle.
Paula said, "Good afternoon, Rosemary from the rainy UK."
Oh, well, we've had a little bit of rain. We had a great thunderstorm yesterday, right?
It was wonderful.
Oh, you should have seen the lightning lighting up the sky. Yeah, it was brilliant. Yes. Keep going.
Elaine said good morning from Holland.
Good morning, Elaine.
Darlene had said, good morning. I've wanted to talk to you for 25 years since my husband passed.
Come on then, here you go.
I responded to her to just email the office with any inquiries, and we'll,
good.
we'll get back to her as soon
Yeah,
as
let's
possible.
just say right up front there, if you do need to talk to me, if you would like to know more about consultations or books, or you want to know more about the story time, you can go back, because we do put this up on YouTube and you can find it on Facebook. So don't think that if you missed it, or you forgot about me, and you want to revisit story time, you can find it. And if you can't, email us and we'll let you know where to find it.
YouTube, Facebook,
all of that
and soon
stuff.
we'll be trying new stuff.
Yeah, and soon we're going to be trying a program which is called Restream. We've never tried it before. If anybody out there knows about it, it means that we can stream, sometimes live or sometimes recorded stuff. It means that we can stream it out to Twitter and Instagram and you name it.
YouTube, everything.
YouTube, everything. You can stream it out so more people can get to see it. So, but you can also make sure to, with your own friends, with your own Facebook page, share, put it out there too. That would be brilliant for us as well if you would share this. But our email is rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. So please, let us know if you want to ask anything or you want to know anything. Yep.
Lou said that she likes your acknowledging Gray Eagle, that her gran used to say, as individuals, we can't take credit for spiritual stuff.
Oh gosh, no.
Judith said good morning from Georgia.
Good morning. Who is it?
Judith.
Judith from Georgia. Wow. Not far away from me, really.
I love Georgia.
What was I going to say? Oh, I always make sure, whether I'm doing a TV show, whether I'm doing a live performance, whether there's 100 people, whether there's 1,000 people, whether there's 10,000 people, however many thousands of people there are. And I've done some massive shows with lots of people. But you always must remember, no matter what you do, and this applies to if you do something small or if you do something bigger, it's all very well being the star of the show, standing on the stage or whatever it is, or if you're in an office, you're the boss, or if you're working with other people and they think you're doing a great job. Please remember this. If the stage weren't built, you wouldn't be able to stand on it, would you? And all those people, those let's say smaller people, because they're not really, the carpenters, the electricians, all of those people who support you, all of those people who help you in your life, they're the ones who build the stage. And if it weren't for them, you wouldn't have a stage to stand on. And I think it's very important that those of us who do seem to be in the limelight, as I am now, we have to understand. I've got Michelle in the background here helping me. I've got Chris who helps me. I've got Al who helps. I've got so many people who help me, and my friends who support me. And you can't do these things on your own, and you should absolutely acknowledge those people who help to build the stage. Keep going. So thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
No thank yous needed. I like it. Maggie said, LOL, be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you really do need to.
Jennifer said, good story, Pocahontas XO.
Thank you. Pocahontas is one of my favourite stories. You know that story, right?
Mm-hmm. I know
on the banks of the river.
I know one of the other stories for Pocahontas.
Oh. All right.
Reese is still watching.
Hi, darling boy.
Maggie said, I'd like to thank you for putting out my healing request. Funny with what is happening, my question as to why and whining to some in the house has been given, because I am where I'm supposed to be to help and support.
Good job. Good job, Maggie.
Mark said, you have a way of healing with the mind, Rosemary.
Well, you are so sweet, Mark. But please let's be clear. I am the vessel. I mean, we all have to play our part. And I always think it's important for all of us out there who are healers, and Mark, you do know you have healing hands. I'm telling you something you already know, aren't I? But anyway, for all of us out there who are healers, you know, it's about energy, it's about sharing our energy, it's about creating energy, it's about mind power, it's about all of that stuff. But there is this universal force, you can call it God force or whatever it is, it doesn't matter what you call it. You know, some people, you know, talk about God, some people talk about Christ. You do know that 2/3 of the world were never brought up with Christ, don't know Christ, and not probably don't care to know Christ. You've got Allah, you've got Buddha, you've got, well, I mean, I can go on and on and on, but we don't do it on our own, and we do have that force, that universal God force that is out there that does help us. So, you know, I might be the person at the front, or a healer might be the person who lays their hands on you, and they're sharing that. And of course they do need accolades, they do need to be thanked, because they are giving something and doing something and sharing their energy. But let's be clear, and Mark, let's be clear, you are a sweetheart for saying that, but it really isn't all me. It's a lot of Grey Eagle who's behind me, smiling at me. But it's also that greater universal power and that greater universal energy that we're able to tap into. Yep, keep going, Michelle.
He said that that song is called Take Me Back to Tulsa.
Thank you.
And that it's windy and warm, and that the Sahara dust is going to be showing up this evening.
Oh.
It's supposed to be great for sunsets.
You just took the words out of my mouth. Mark, do you have some fabulous sunsets in Tulsa? I'm going to play that song once we get off here. I'm going to say to, I can't say it, but I do have an EXA. And if I say it now, it won't, but I'm going to play that song later. Right, keep going.
Michelle said, hi from Mexico again, Rosemary.
Hi, darling.
Amazing. I meditate to feel better and
great.
Peace, and I didn't know I could create.
Oh, yes, we can all create. And I think maybe it might be one of the seminars that we do, learning how to use the power of the mind and learning how to visualize and use the power of the mind in amazing ways. And it's actually a great story about a man who was sort of, let's say, on his deathbed, because he'd been told he was, but not really. But that's another story for another week.
I have that one marked down already.
Okay, keep going.
Ivy said, hi, Rosemary.
Hi, darling.
Thank you for a beautiful story. That I do use mind power when looking for a parking space.
Me too.
Reading your fantastic book right now. You own the power.
Oh,
Sending
great.
healing and love to you.
Oh, great. Well, you know, when I'm driving somewhere, I think it's a second nature to me, and I'll always put it out there that I want a parking spot. And I can drive into a parking garage that's jam full, no parking anywhere, and I can guarantee it might take me 5 or 10 minutes, but I'll guarantee you I'll get a parking spot. So I always ask the universe, can you find me a parking spot? Of course, I always ask Grey Eagle as well. He usually finds me one. Keep going, Michelle.
Mark said, Rosemary, I'd enjoy chatting with you.
Oh.
Carl says, nice history. Thanks. Pamela says hello from Milan.
I love Milan. It's a great place. It's a little bit cold, but it's great. And the people are very serious, but that's another. Write this story down. Milan, in the little side street shop. There's a great story about. I can't tell you, can I? I only can tell you one story at a time. Sometimes two. Sometimes I slip another one in, but that is a great story too. So, hi, darling. So, in the next few weeks or so, I'll be telling the story of when I went to Milan with my wonderful publisher, Carla, and we walked the streets and we went into the back streets where most tourists don't go. We found this amazing little shop, and That's as much of the story as I'm telling you right now. I'm such a tease. Keep going.
Kara said,
Hi, Cara.
she says, hello from Edmonton, Alberta.
Oh, yes.
You visited here about 20 years ago.
I did. It's so funny that you should say that, Cara, because I was talking to another lady who also saw me in that same place, and she said to me, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, Cara, I remember, this is another story to put down, Michelle. She said, I remember the man who lost his 2 children in a fire in Edmonton. I don't know if you remember that story, but there's more to the story because I spoke to him afterwards without the audience listening. So maybe we'll tell you that story too, because that's an amazing story. That's a story about an angel. That's all I'm saying. Oh, I can't help it though. I just want, when I think of these stories, I think, oh yes, and there's this, and my life is, as you can see, right? I've just told you a story about Egypt. I can tell you a story about Greece. I can tell you a story about, I don't know, Germany. I can tell you a story about South Africa. Oh yes, put South African stories down. I can tell you all sorts of stories because I've been so blessed to have travelled the world a few times, Australia, New Zealand. I can tell the New Zealand and the Maori story, put that one down. We have to tell that one, and that's an amazing story. But on top of all of that and travelling around, I've also had these amazing and incredible stories that connect me to the spirit world, that connect me to my spirit, that sort of feed my soul and so on. So of course I want to share them all with all of you. There are so many though, we can keep going forever. Should we maybe keep going forever? Maybe we should just keep going forever. Story time.
See, why not?
Right.
I love story time.
Who else do we have?
Well, Mark made a comment to me, but I'm going to read it to you.
Oh.
He said, Michelle, thank you for your continuous love to protect Rosemary.
Aww. And she does. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Lewis said, good morning.
We like Mark. We love Mark.
We like Mark a lot
Okay,
right now. Lewis said, good morning, blessings, Rosemary.
Good morning, darling.
Carl said, must go, have a nice day, and thanks for these meetings.
Have a very blessed weekend, Carl.
From Barcelona, and he's going to send an email to ask some questions.
Oh, right, Barcelona. I love Barcelona. I have another story about the market in Barcelona. You know that big market in Barcelona, right, Carl? Anyway, all right. Keep going, Michelle.
Mark said, the Spirit is what guided us, and yes, as I call on Spirit constantly.
Yes.
Stephanie said, good afternoon, Rosemary, and everyone in the background.
Aww.
From Moncton, Canada.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Did I say that right?
I think so.
Okay. Maggie said, I always ask for Rockstar parking. And good for you, Grey Eagle. LOL.
Ooh, maybe I'll try that, Maggie. I'm just happy to get any parking space. So, yeah. Keep going.
Tara said, my grandmother taught me these things as a small child, but I actually didn't remember her teachings until I had an awakening. I often wonder if it happened that way because I wasn't spiritually developed enough before that moment.
Well, I think we all have, when we're ready. You know that old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And I think it's the same with everything, really. I think until we're ready for these things, and we're ready to sort of, until our mind is open to these things, we can be told dozens and dozens of things. My daughter grew up with all of this stuff. Can you imagine being her? I mean, it's got to have been tough for her. If she's listening, she's saying, you betcha. But just because you're growing up with something, or just because people tell you stories, or because your family is involved in something, if you're not ready to hear it, or you have to wait until you're ready. And when you're ready, it absolutely comes to you.
That is a true story. Pepe said, hello from Altea near Alicante in Spain.
Yay!
It's a lovely place.
It is.
The same name like you.
Yay!
It says, I'm sorry because my English is not very good. I hope to see you here. Kisses.
Right, in Altea, I went to Altea. I stood on the beach. It's a very pebbly beach. It's not a great beach, but it's beautiful. And when you go up into the town of Altea, it's the place of eagles. They have eagles everywhere. Altea actually means a high place, or a high place is where eagles nest. You see how all this comes together, don't you? But I'm never ever, how fabulous! Oh gosh, it takes me back. I've never spoken to anybody from the town of Altea. You call it a town or a village, I'm not sure, but it's an incredible place. They have a lot of the older buildings. They literally have eagles on the doors, in the doors and everywhere, and there are eyries everywhere. I was actually explaining to somebody the other day what an eyrie is, because they didn't know. An eyrie is it's either a place where eagles nest, or it can refer to the nest itself. But anyway, wow. Well, thank you for the memory, my darling, and thank you for watching. Wow. I have to go back there, you know. I really do have to go back there, because it's a very special place for Grey Eagle and I. Whoa. Go ahead, keep going.
Mark said that once all this coronavirus stuff is finished, that you should come to Tulsa and visit, and that he'll give you a tour and take you down Route 66.
Whoa! Can we play music really loud on the way down there, Mark?
Have a convertible too. Convertible with the music going.
Yay! That sounds fabulous. I'll certainly take you up on that if I can. Keep going, Michelle. Woohoo!
Cara said that yes, she remembers the story of the guy with the house fire.
Oh, good, great. We have the lawnmower guy. We're going to ignore him completely. Keep going, Michelle.
Sandy said, thank you for the new tool to try. I can't wait to try it out. I love the little tidbits and learning from you. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Lorraine said, hello from Burlington, Vermont. I promised to send you my short exercise form, the writer's workshop, a number of weeks ago, and I've been avoiding it. Reading The Eagle and the Rose and loved it. Amazing life you've had.
Is she saying she was at my writer's workshop?
That's what she said, that she's supposed to have emailed you or sent you something, and she's been avoiding doing it.
And you didn't do it? I can't believe it. I know, you're all thinking, does Rosemary do writer's workshops? And I do, actually, from time to time. And my friend Chris, who was here on Storytime with us last week, we're ignoring the lawnmower. I can't tell him to stop because I want him to do what he's doing. So my friend Chris also lives in Burlington, Vermont, so you might want to get together. And I did a workshop for the Burlington Writers Club. I don't know if that's what you call yourselves, but anyway, that's what I did. And I had a lot of fun, but I've had no feedback. So how nice that I'm getting a little feedback now.
Are you ready for the next one?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. Mary said, you look beautiful, Rosemary. XOXO for Grey Eagle. Love your show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Stephanie said, yes, you did. LOL. Jeff is on. He said, good day, Rosemary.
Good day. That's an Aussie way. Do you mean good morning, Jeff? Or maybe you're Jeff from Australia, and it is good day. Good day. Right. I thought so. What's this Aussie thing about, Jeff?
Mary said, amazing, the Eagles in Altea.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Greetings from Holland. Jenny said, you are a delight. I bought The Eagle and the Rose many years ago from my father. He died last month of the virus at the age of 89.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I read
the book for the first time, and it was really wonderful. I'm newly open to the other side in a bigger way than ever, and feel he is actually a helper now. Thank you, Rosemary.
Oh, I'm going to say without a doubt that he will be right by your side, but how nice that you got the book for him, and how nice that he was interested in this stuff. You know, so many people, it's amazing. This book, this one little book that I wrote in England, you know, I'd write a story, and then I'd put it to one side, then I'd write another story. There was no real beginning, middle and end stuff. I just wrote all of the stories. I thought that's what the book would be about, just other people's stories. And that was 24 or 25 years ago, almost a quarter of a century ago, and I left it on the shelves, and every now and again I'd take it down and what have you, and then I went to America and met by chance, of course there are no coincidences, a book publisher, well actually an agent, she was a book agent, who put me in touch with Joanne Davis at Warner Books. And I do want to give a big shout out to Joanne, because she really helped me to design the book and to put it in a way, you know, she sort of really didn't, well, I was going to say she didn't cut the story. She didn't tell me what to write or what not to write. She made suggestions, and she certainly helped me with the format of the book, which makes the book a real standalone, I think. And we talked earlier about, you know, you got the star on the stage, but if it weren't for the people building it, and she was one of those major influences and builders in my life, and if it hadn't been for her dedication and determination, it would have, the Eagle and the Rose would have fallen into the cracks. Whole other story, but so, you know, almost 25 years later, people are still discovering the book. People are finding it like it's a new book. People are so influenced by it, and so I'm so grateful to have been able to bring this book to your attention. And it is, you know, the stories in there are just amazing. It was Joanne who pushed me to write about myself as well. She says, all very well writing other people's stories, but people want to know about you, and she was absolutely right. Moving on, Michelle.
Mark said, Michelle and Rosemary, although we are few on here, those called were asked to join, and thank you for this great time. We are fortunate having you in our lives.
Thank you.
And Jeff said, good day from Maine.
You're so funny, Jeff. Keep going.
Kara said, a writing workshop sounds intriguing.
It was fun. It was. I enjoyed myself. But anyway, I hope I helped those people who joined in. That's what I hope. Is that
I don't think
it?
we have any more comments yet.
Okay, so, well, what time is it actually?
It is 11:48.
Oh, good. Well, we're nearly done anyway. If you don't ask me questions, we're leaving. You got 2 minutes to put some questions up there. Otherwise, it is, after all, it is Saturday morning, right?
It is.
And, you know, I don't mind telling the story. I love telling the stories. Actually, I really love the stories. However, whenever I'm in an audience, whether it's sort of like this and it's like, you know, using iPads and computers and so on, or whether it's actually in the midst of people, I like participation, audience participation. So I'm going to give to you as long as you keep giving to me. But if you're not participating, I'm just going to assume that you've had enough, and that's okay too. And we'll quit, right, Michelle?
Yeah.
I can
the
see
minute
things,
you said that, we got like 12.
I know. I keep seeing things popping up.
Okay, the first one is from Maggie, and Maggie said, I love hearing Rosemary tell her stories. Although I've read a few of them, it's a treat to hear Rosemary.
Yeah, I think it's you know, you read them, you can read these stories, but I really personally love it if I have a writer who I love, if I have a writer who, you know, is actually sitting down with you and telling a story out of the book, or telling a chapter out of a book. they put in the right inflections, they put in the right amount of excitement or the right amount of I don't know, awe or horror or whatever the story's
the
about.
Emotion.
They put it. Thank you, thank you, Michelle. They put in they give you the emotion, and so the story, even though you hope it's alive on the page, it comes more alive with the telling of it. So I do hope you enjoy even if you've read the stories, and we'll be telling stories that you haven't read, but still, I hope that you enjoy me telling them, because and you know, when I tell them, they come alive for me again. So it's really pretty much of a self-indulgent thing, this story time.
Ivy would like to know, will you ever have a Zoom meditation?
We were just talking about this morning before we, sorry about the lawnmower, everybody. We were just talking about this morning. We are, I keep saying this, we keep being thwarted. We are wanting to do some online courses, we're wanting to do some online workshops.
Picking a date today.
Seminars. We are actually picking a date today. It will be sometime in October, but it's finding the right things that go together, because Zoom is brilliant. It's great. Mm-hmm. So we use that, but then there's another side of working with seminars and so on, the booking and the, you know, and all of that stuff of the bookings and the payments and all the paperwork and the office work and so on and so forth. So, you know, we're trying to get stuff going together. We think we've actually come up with a solution. So watch out for October. If you want to know
run some
more,
test runs on it first.
We're going to do some test runs, but if you want, but we'll be promoting very soon now. But if you want to know more, or if you're interested, if you will email me, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. If you want to be on our mailing list, you have to request it. We will not automatically put you on there. You will not be inundated with emails. You know, maybe 4 or 5 a month is all you're going to get from us. But if you want to know more about the seminars, or you want to join in these online courses, please put in the subject line, you know, seminars or workshops or whatever it is you want, so that Michelle, when she gets the email, she can sort them out, and she can sort them out into order and send you the information out quickly. So yes, we'll be doing all of that, Ivy. You are a sweetheart. So, you know, if you want to know more, make sure you email us, make sure you request being put on the mailing list, and make sure you know, whether it's, if you want healing, put healing in the subject line. If you want to be you want to know more about the seminars. If you want to know more about the books, or if you want to know more about having a consultation with me, yes, I do consultations. People keep asking me. I don't know if people think I'm just too old now to do consultations, but I'm actually not. I'll keep going until I can't keep going any longer, which is going to be quite a while yet. But whatever it is that you want from us, or you want to know about, put it in the subject line. And if it's everything, you can put everything in the subject line, and we'll know what to do with you. Okay.
Mark said last year he graduated from the School of Spiritual Direction in Sand Springs, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And this was a huge part of who he is.
All right. Interesting. I've never heard of that school, but good for you. Well done, you.
Flower.
Yes.
Said, hi again from New Mexico. I'm thankful that you are helping people all over the world. I am relearning to live after my husband's passing in October, and I am wanting to learn how to communicate more with him. I will send you an email to learn more. My question is, do some people that have died from the virus feel like their lives on Earth were unfairly taken from them?
No. That's a big, immediate no. Because here's the thing, whether you've died from the virus or whether you've died from influenza, you do realize, everybody out there listening, that more people have died from the influenza every year than people have died from the coronavirus. Whatever it is that you have, whether it's simply old age, whether it's old age combined with influenza or corona or whatever it is, doesn't matter, or whether you're hit by a bus or whatever it is, I firmly believe that you cannot go before your time. So no, I don't think there's any resentment of why when somebody goes in the spirit world, it is because it's their time and they are ready and they are met and they are taken care of. So darling, please understand that your husband he's fine, and of course always with you, as you know that anyway. Yeah, anything else before we close?
Vicky would like to know if you have any plans to still visit the UK after COVID.
Yes. Oh, I'm drying my tears here. We had a trip planned for July was it 15th or 16th or something?
Yeah, it was
like
coming up.
That. And we had this trip organised. We hadn't yet booked the tickets, but we were just about to book the tickets, and then everything broke out in Italy, because I was planning to go first of all with my daughter and my grandson. I was taking them on this fabulous trip to Italy, and then from Italy we were going to go to England. So everything was mapped out. We were going to go. I'm still sort of hanging on by a thread to the idea of going to England, but it probably won't be until, and if it happens, and possibly even Italy, but if it happens, it certainly won't happen until, I'm going to say, September or October, something like that. But I promise you, I will let you all know. That I promise you. So, but it is what it is, and we're taking each day at a time. My daughter just booked a trip to Florida 2 or 3 days ago, and then in that same afternoon, I know you're going to say, well, I thought you were psychic, so you should know. Don't go there. And then in that same afternoon, the governor of Florida said he was shutting down the restaurants and the bars once again, because Florida...
Not restaurants.
Oh, just the bars?
He just shut down the bars.
Oh, good. So the restaurants are still open then?
Restaurants are still open.
So we're waiting to see whether she comes here, and if she doesn't come here, then I should go to New York City. So whatever happens, she'll either come to Florida for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll go back with her to New York City for 2 or 3 weeks, or it'll vice versa. We'll do the whiz around. But I was planning that if I went to New York in August and stayed till the end of August, maybe I would then hop on a plane and go to England. I miss Marks and Spencer's so much. Just kidding. I miss my friends more, but I do miss Marks and Spencer's. Anyway, anything else, Michelle?
Tara would like to know if you wouldn't mind sharing how they can connect to their own guides.
I have my own opinions on guides. If you go to my YouTube channel, you see that I've done a show on spirit guides. Your guides will usually be your family. 99.9% of those people who will help you and guide you will be your family. Some you may know, and some you perhaps heard of but haven't known. Some died before you were even born. So you can. So, but yes, again, when we do our seminars, we'll probably talk about all of these things. So, so you can wait for that. Unfortunately, today we don't have time because we are about to close. Anything else before we go?
Maggie said that you're saving her, that she's watching you instead of being outside pulling weeds.
Oh, oh, good. I think I'd rather watch a show than pull weeds.
Stephanie,
you do know that in the native language, right? I just want to say this to all of you. There are around 38 words that are not in the native language, and one of those words is the word it, and another of those words, Maggie, I'm afraid to tell you, is they don't have a word for weed, because there is no such thing as a weed. Anyway, keep going.
Stephanie
Sorry. Yes.
says that she has been told that there are connections that want to be made, but her house is too busy, and she wants to know how she can help quiet down to receive her messages.
I don't know who told you that, my darling, but don't forget to be skeptical when people tell you these things. Please be skeptical, all of you. Even when I tell you things, be skeptical. I mean, who would really believe that we could create the wind to have all of the feluccas on the Nile come out, and all the joyous shouting and waving that the boys did to each other, because finally they could take money from the unsuspecting tourists once again. Anything else?
Lewis said, how can I improve my intuitions? I know I am surrounded by angels.
Be attentive, pay attention. Biggest thing, learn to listen. Not just learning to listen with your ears, but learning to listen with your eyes, with your touch, learning to listen with every one of your 5 senses. I know it sounds very weird. We will be having a workshop to talk about that sort of thing, and my students are already involved in the first of the exercises on attuning to and developing sensitivity to our senses. Yep.
Dean said that he's listening in and out while trying to start a dead car.
Oh, mind power, Dean. Mind power.
Maggie said that she'll help with anything that we need testing with if you'd like her to.
Oh, we would. Oh, yes, Maggie. Will you volunteer? Lovely.
Ivy said, with everyone home right now with COVID-19, a lot of people are doing Zoom meditation, healing, Tai Chi, exercises, etc. That she's looking forward to some of your seminars.
Great.
And Mark said, well said about our time. When we go, it's because we completed life as we know it. And then Samantha said we might not go.
Is that my darling daughter saying we might not go?
Yes.
Do not be negative. Do not be negative, my darling daughter. So my final, that's it then, to my darling daughter and my darling grandson, because I know that they're listening now. Ha ha. So thank you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. To all of you out there, thank you very much. Thank you, my darling boy. You know exactly who you are, my darling Reese and my darling daughter. Please, if you need to know any more, email me, Rosemary at rosemaryaLtea.com. If you have any questions, email me. Don't be shy. And I shall see you again hopefully next Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know I told everybody it would be Friday, but actually it's Thursday. Michelle will be sending out emails, all the necessary emails to let you all know.
Yes.
In the meantime, thank you for joining me.
Reese said it's Reese, not Samantha.
Pardon?
I said Reese said it's Reese, not Samantha.
I know that. I know who it is, my sweetheart. I know. Oh, God, I love that child. I love you more. I love you more. Anyway, please, all of you, we should be back next Saturday morning, same time, same place, for another story time. Who knows what it's going to be about. And please, and in the meantime, we're getting so many people now popping up, but sorry, we're closed, we're done. So don't forget, you can get in early next week, or send us an email with your question and we can deal with it there. Please have a very, very, very blessed rest of the weekend. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Grey Eagle. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a very, very blessed and a very wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.